All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just look at the group here. So as you all know, there we go. On September 14th, the IRS issued a couple of news releases as well as an updated Q&A regarding the employee retention credit. The news releases essentially said they were going to put a stop in place in processing new claims. And we're going to take a more conservative and strict approach in reviewing claims that have already been submitted that have not been processed yet. So we can understand that that is going to cause, some concerns for you all for files that are in the process of either pre-engagement, engagement, or claims that are filed. So we wanted to give everyone kind of a quick overview of what those press releases stated. What, if any, changes we've made in the way that we analyze an ERC problem, and what next steps are there, and then give everyone an opportunity to ask questions, because we know there's a lot of questions going on about this stuff. So first, did you want to put up the
yeah. And then just, if there's anybody on here who doesn't know who we are, my name is Peter Hockabo. And this is Rebecca Shepard. We're partners at the firm who are spearheading the ERC. Is this shared now? Does that look right? Okay. So, they came out with these information releases, IR 2023-169 and 170. 169 is really the narrative from the commissioner. There was a coordinated effort to have some press here from the Wall Street Journal. I had several clients email me that and say, have you seen this? So they're worried about fraud and improper claims here. So if you have concerns about fraud and improper claims, this is a good thing. I don't fault the IRS if what they say is true, and I think it's a little bit overstated where they say, anecdotally, that tax professionals believe that at least 95 or more % of currently contemporaneously filed claims are, at best improper and at worst fraudulent. I think that we should all support an effort to crack down on that and make sure that appropriate claims are being paid here. So basically what happened was 2 weeks ago, September 14th, they came out with this information release. It appears to draw a line in the sand between claims that are filed on or after September 14th and those that were filed before September 14th. What I would like to be able to tell you is what it means to have been filed, because for a lot of you on the call, I can go in and I can look at, your FedEx receipts for each return, and I can say, with certainty that returns were received by the IRS between August 17th and August 30th, right? Is that what the commissioner means when he says filed? Or does it mean when the return is actually logged to an account transcripts? It's sort of unknown. They haven't come back within the week to say what they are considering filed. So for purposes, legal purposes, yeah, they're filed. They're in the system. They were received. It's not clear about the approximately 600,000 though, if those are ones that are still sitting in a cafeteria somewhere waiting to get processed, so that they make their way onto an account transcript. Again, what Rebecca said was, they did, and they acknowledged, they said previously filed claims will continue to be processed. What they said, though, was that the processing was going to slow down. The announcement somewhat laughably said, we anticipate processing times to go from our stated goal of 90 days to 180 days. And for those of you who have filed that are on the call know that, well, I would imagine many of you are waiting longer than 90 days. So I don't know that that was ever really the realistic thing. Every once in a while we'd see some get processed very quickly, but I would imagine that that is not most people's experience. I think that the reality of this and what they're telegraphing is that, what they had done in the past for the past 2.5, 3 years doing this is they are processing the refunds, sending checks, and then coming back behind and doing audits and potentially saying you need to pay us back. I think by making this announcement, what they are projecting is that it's likely that they shift resources before issuing refunds. And it may be that during this time they are working on logging all of those returns that they had physically received before September 14th, getting them in the system and sort of approaching it a little bit more methodically. It's unclear. I mean, this is, quite a bit of speculation, admittedly. It's based on, 12 years, 13 years of practice before the IRS. One of the things that they did announce here, or they announced an announcement to come later, is some sort of voluntary disclosure program for folks in two camps. One bucket where they have received checks and they can turn it back in, and the other ones where if there are concerns about claims, you may be able to withdraw in some way. Unclear exactly what that looks like, but they said there'll be some sort of an announcement in the fall.
And for you guys, I mean, that's really for places where people are making claims that are incorrect. You're a group of our potential clients, and there are no claims that we filed that we feel should be withdrawn. So that's part of what the news release said, but it's definitely not something that we think you all should be worried about. We did want to address it because we understand, like I said, there's concerns, there's Wall Street Journal articles, there's all this stuff kind of coming out about this. Like, is it an okay program? Should we continue to work through it and all of that? So we want to address it, but what happened?
Go ahead.
Sorry. So what happened in this space is the credit is so lucrative that, 1,000 companies popped up. And in those 1,000 companies, maybe 100 rose to really large corporations in the amount of 2 years. Thousands of people on staff, like very large companies that had predatory practices. And I think probably all of you on this call have received text messages and calls and letters that look like they're from the IRS, and all of these unscrupulous behaviors in trying to get businesses to allow these companies to file claims on their behalf because they're getting these very large contingency fees on the refund claims, like 25%, et cetera. We have never operated that way. We've never had a contingency fee. You guys have heard us talk to you about this stuff. We say really clearly that we don't think that's ethical, that we are bound by Circular 230, that refund claims in front of the IRS should not be based on contingent because it encourages bad actors to increase refund amounts incorrectly in some cases. And so what we think the IRS is doing is trying to kind of bleed out these companies. If they don't process claims for 4 months, they're thinking these companies aren't going to have income for 4 months. If they don't process claims for 5 months, they're thinking these companies aren't going to have income for 5 months. And what that's going to do is hopefully clear the space. And so the claims that are still filed are more appropriate. Now, no one told me that and no one told Peter that, but that's our assumption. That's what we think is going on. And that is why they're slowing these claims down, reviewing things ahead of time, because they're trying to weed out these frankly, some are criminally bad actors.
And we've seen it already have,
Yes.
the desired effect. I mean, you have one in particular that you can't hardly turn on the news or radio without hearing an ad that they made a WARN Act announcement recently that they were terminating 40% of their staff. So I think it is having the desired effect. It is having a chilling effect. We got together the day after the announcement came out as a group and said, what are we going to do? Are we going to pause? Are we going to continue filing? Like, do we get our clients in line? Do we wait and see what happens next? And, I collectively as a firm and as attorneys, we decided that this is a very real program. Congress got together 4 times to do something here, and ask yourself how common it is that Congress can get themselves together. They did it 4 times to pass this law. The IRS and Treasury came back behind with program rules that, for better or for worse, leave a lot to be desired and make this credit really easy to claim incorrectly and really difficult and challenging to do the right way. And like Rebecca said, you've seen some real junk move into the space because of that, and because of the way the program rules are, and frankly, even some of the statutory stuff. We are where we are, because of legislative and regulatory, or in this instance, sub-regulatory guidance. It just is what it is. And so we're sort of all along for the ride. Again, we as a firm think that this isn't the worst thing. Right now, you've got some claims that are going to be reviewed before the issuance of checks. Well, now you have some buy-in from the government. I can't sit here and tell you that there's absolutely no circumstance where the government reviews up front, issues check, and then comes back and audits you later, right? They still have that authority. I think that would be silly to do and probably unlikely, but who knows? But at least you've got some buy-in here, where if they're asking you to show them the governmental orders, or show them the gross receipts analysis, or show them, the work paper that we do that is literally lining out per employee per quarter what we're considering a qualified wage, what we're considering a payroll cost for PPP. Did you, pay health plan expenses that count as qualified wages, and come at them, with all of that information done, and then they're paying these claims. I think that's good. I don't have a problem with that at all, and I don't think any of you should either, truly. The one thing I do want to address, and then I'll throw it back to you, Rebecca. So in addition to the information releases in 169 and 170, they came out with a checklist. They came out with these additional FAQs. We're starting to hear more and more when we talk to folks about this. They say, oh yeah, I understand that the program rules have changed a bunch over the years, and all this kind of stuff. It simply isn't true. The IRS has come out with additional checklists. The IRS has come out with these FAQs and new stuff, but they're not touching on the program rules and what generates eligibility, and what a qualified wage is, and what to think about, offsets with other programs. They're not doing anything there except for sort of in one limited place with supply chain claims. Otherwise, they are sort of repackaging things that they have already stated, and they're stating them in a different way, and then continuing to hammer that there are folks taking improper positions here. And so it's just simply not true that they've come out with additional guidance. We might like additional guidance, and that could be helpful, but that's not what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, the IRS really missed a lot of opportunities in the last, 2.5 years to provide professionals some additional guidance in how to grapple with some of these issues. And instead, they're taking some like extreme fringe positions and restating their issues over and over again. Yeah, I mean, we're still we're still making, we're still talking to people ahead of time. We're still going through the analysis. We are doing actually exactly what we were doing a month ago. Our process has not changed at all. We weren't sure what they were going to come out with. We'd heard rumblings that something was going to come out and that it could change the way we've interpreted the guidance in the law. And so obviously that's a concern, last week. And then when we read it and we looked at the Q&As and we looked at the guidance, we're like, oh, nothing at all has changed on how we look at this whatsoever. Frankly, review the claims before you pay out is better for businesses and better for us. It's better for everyone, because then you know that the claim is blessed and you don't need to go worry about an audit in a year, or further on down the line. So I'm going to open it up to questions now. The first question from Melinda saying, I've not filed yet. I was referred to you by another business owner and he sent me this link in an email. Am I still able to file? And the answer is yes. We do the same analysis that we've done for everybody. Check to see if we think that you're eligible. Once you're eligible, we check and see if we think you have qualified wages. And then we'll tell you what you think your estimated refund amount is. We'll then build out your case and send you your deliverable with the returns for you to review.
And folks, if you want to, rather than type something in, feel free to unmute and just ask it too. We want this to be a conversation. So if somebody else has other questions.
Yeah, we were hoping that there'd be a lot of questions. Jean says, what are the deadlines to submit the applications? The refund statute deadline for 2020 is April 15th of 2024. And 2021 is April 15th of 2025.
So we're getting closer. We're inside almost 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
If our filing is under review with your attorneys and has been for a couple of weeks, are you still submitting claims before December 31st? Yeah, we're still going to submit claims. December 31st isn't a deadline. Again, we would want to get them in by April 15th, 2024 or April 15th, 2025. We think you ought to still get in line for processing. So the moratorium, I don't know if we said this, the moratorium is in effect from September 14th through and including December 31st. So the earliest they've said that they will continue to process these would be the first of the year. So yeah, and I guess that's your December 31st reference. So yeah, we think you ought to get in line. It's not clear if it's a line or just a pool that IRS is going to then go fish in beginning of the new year. We don't really know. They haven't said anything in the last 2 weeks. We will continue to communicate updates as we get them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been told that you are all free to unmute now and ask your questions directly. So, feel free. We actually do look at these releases as good news, because we do think that means that one, these bad actors are getting out of the space. And, when you're working in a space that has some bad actors in it, it's not the best. So it's definitely better to be in a place where you're not worried about these other types of claims. And like I said, we do want the IRS to review these claims before they pay out. That's a good thing. And one thing I don't think we've mentioned is that the IRS pays interest on its claims. And I understand that as of October 1st, it's 8%. So that's not that bad either. You're not going to get paid out before the end of the year, most likely. Like realistically, you're probably not going to get paid out by the end of the year. especially for new claims, but even for claims that we filed over the summer. I think the chances of you getting a check before December 31st is probably unlikely. But if they're paying you interest on your money, it's not a huge harm either.
Question, we've been working with Innovation Refunds to process our paperwork. Are you hearing any negative press about them? I did read the Des Moines Register that they are laying off staff due to the IRS moratorium. Have you heard anything else negative about them? Yeah, I read the same article. They're laying off about 40% of their staff, not doing the advertising that they had done in the past. I have reviewed a couple of packets, I guess, that Innovation Refunds has been responsible for. It is certainly not something that I would be proud of to have created for a client. And the analysis associated with it, I'll say that. How does the impending government shutdown impact this?
Unclear.
Who knows, guys?
So when Peter says things like, Congress came together and passed legislation 4 times regarding the employee retention credit, and then you see what they're fighting about now and can't even fund the government and keep the lights on. It really does mean something, because it's not often that you can pass legislation like that, especially one that's going to, cost a lot of money multiple times in a row.
Yeah.
Anything else?
You were highly recommended. How do I start the process? Reach out. I guess, Brian or Elise, do you want to put our contact info somewhere in the chat? Or Rebecca, I don't really know how to use these because I'm usually running slides. And look, the way Rebecca sort of touched on it, but the way we do this is we break apart the credit into 2 different parts. One is, the eligible employer analysis that stays with her and I and our team to determine eligibility. But everybody sort of gets the same first email that is requesting primarily financial information, tax documents, payroll data, information about PPP forgiveness and like that goes off to our accounting team to start to look at the data, but they're really waiting on us to come back to them to say, okay, this is, a start date, end date for eligibility, whether it's based on a significant decline in gross receipts or partial suspension of trade or business operations. So it's going to be an ongoing discussion. This isn't a situation where you check a couple boxes on a website and poof, you're qualified and eligible and all the other words that folks are throwing at you. So yeah, we'll make sure you have some contact information.
And just so you guys know, people do call us that have called these other businesses first, and they're like, Rebecca, I want to do business with you, but like, don't worry, I'm already pre-qualified. I'm like, you are not pre-qualified. It is not a MasterCard. This is not how this works. How are you qualified? How are you eligible? What are the dates? Like, let's go through it. Let's go through the analysis. And they can't usually answer that question. So for everyone who's our client and that we have filed, you should know exactly your dates of eligibility, what the theory of the case is. You should have gotten a writing that explains your theory of the case. And, for how long you're eligible for, along with government orders, if it's based on a suspension of operations, it's based on significant decline in gross receipts. There should be paperwork that shows that. There shouldn't be any surprises with us. And if there is something, please reach out to us, because that is certainly not the way we do business. You should get a significant deliverable explaining every piece of the theory of your case, along with the calculations that lead to the credit with those tax returns. If you have not, please let me know.
And if you're on here because you got invited by somebody or you've already filed or whatever, I'd encourage you to go back to that preparer and push them for that information as well.
Absolutely.
They should be able to tell you and explain to you exactly why they think this works and why they are counseling you that this makes sense to do.
Does anyone have any other questions about the moratorium, the release, what it means for us, what it means for you? I mean, we're a law firm. We've got many tax attorneys, some of which do this type of work, some of which do other types of work. We will not, the Des Moines Register will not, issue news releases about us laying off 40% of our staff. We're all here. We didn't exist because of the employee retention credit before or after the credit. That's not what's happening. We started doing this work because we did tax controversy work for small businesses and our clients needed help. The pandemic really hurt them and they needed an ability to maintain their operations. And so we helped them with PPP and EIDL and a bunch of stuff. And part of that was the employee retention credit. And, since then, Peter and I have worked with the National Restaurant Association, the National Child Care Association, Maryland Child Care Association, Maryland State Bar Association, a lot of the smaller bar associations as well, in order to help businesses, get relief that they're entitled to. So I don't want anyone to think that there's a concern there. Jolita has raised a hand. I'm gonna unmute yourself.
I guess my question would be, I had my return filed by Innovation Refunds in January, which was filed incorrectly, and I did had a new correct forms prepared by your attorney, but I haven't, we haven't determined yet what would be the best steps to correct those forms. And I'm trying to the Innovation Refunds, they said they would let me out of their contract.
Okay.
I'm just thinking if this new new sort of moratorium affects refunds that need to be corrected, the ones that have been sent out and that were incorrect.
So like Peter said, there's going to be, they said this fall. We were really hoping that it was going to be dropped on Monday. We heard some whispers that there was going to be a release on Monday about a voluntary disclosure program. It hasn't released yet, so we were hoping to have this information. But there should be information about a voluntary disclosure program. We can talk about your specific case offline. I don't want to get into too many details with this many people on the program. But if you shoot me an email, I can give you a call when this is over and we can discuss, your next steps specifically, because I would have to look up your case.
Okay, yeah. And sorry, I was kind of in and out of the Zoom because I'm also at work. So maybe you guys already mentioned this, but yeah, I thought I'll ask anyways if there was any specific guideline on it. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll
No problem at all. Don't apologize. You're absolutely fine. This is supposed to be a very casual question and answer session. All we know is what the IRS released. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes as far as what their intentions are for the program. We know they would like to change the statute of limitations, but that hasn't been proposed to Congress right now. And as Peter mentioned, getting Congress to agree is kind of a challenge. And so we don't think, as of right now, the statute of limitations for filing refunds are going to change. But tomorrow I could learn differently. So as of now, we're good.
Okay, thank
you. Anyone else have any questions? Anyone have questions about the stuff in general? Sure thing, James. I'll give you a call. How all this works, You get an opportunity to talk to me and Peter for free. It's a good time. We can talk about whatever you like. Peter can give you history on chili from Cincinnati and how it goes over pasta.
With beans and onions.
It's a whole thing.
Mhm.
Or we can talk about tax credits, either way.
Mhm.
I don't want to keep people unnecessarily, but so I want to give people plenty of opportunity to kind of raise the questions if they have them.
Yeah, and we'll keep everybody updated. I mean, if you're not signed up for a
Yeah.
newsletter, that's something that you can do and make sure that you have the updates on where things stand, because I'm sure we'll write about it as a firm as we learn more and see what the government does.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Peter and I are pretty accessible. At least put our information in the chat. Feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call offline. We're happy to talk through this stuff. Whenever you'd like. Julie, did you have a new hand or am I not understanding?
I do. Yeah, I guess if nobody else has any
Go for it.
questions.
Take your time.
In terms of like timeline for refunds, I've heard that you said for new refunds, it wouldn't be earlier than the end of this year. How long does it take for refunds that have been like filed, let's say, long time, well, let's say in January, right, of 2023? And then if you have to send new forms, is that take longer than filing like a whole new refund, or is that take shorter because it's like editing the one that's been,
Well, it's
updating?
one of those things that we really can't give you an answer. I mean, if the government's information release from 2 weeks ago was to be trusted fully, you would have had your refund in March, right? 90
Right.
days, what they said their target was. And if you believe that they were going to move to 180 days, you should have had your refund in June.
Yep.
We can keep
September.
going.
So all we can really tell you is that they have said they are going to continue to process. What that means at this point is unclear. I think if you have pending claims, we need to keep an eye on what comes out and evaluate what the options are to decide the best way forward, to make sure that yes, the path of least resistance, but also do no harm first. So make sure you're not confusing them by having a duplicate filing or anything like that. So I regret to tell you this. I don't like to tell you this, but there's really not much for you to do. You're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now until we get more information from the IRS.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll say this is that we also have been getting some audits referred from other people who have filed these claims, and we're seeing what the IRS is asking for and are able to respond to those inquiries. We expect that area to get much busier while the IRS is doing this. So if the IRS's intention is 90 days, it just takes them a long time to kind of move through these issues as far as like getting a claim processed.
There's a question here. If I only qualified for one round of PPP, would this be worth the time? Let me take it.
Sure.
Okay. So I guess, Melinda, was your PPP the first draw in 2020? Well, I guess I'll assume it was the first draw in 2020. Yes, it is likely worth your time because of the way the 2020 credit is computed, in as much as the qualified wages are calculated for the entire year. Devil's in the details when it comes to this stuff, as far as, you know, can you fill up that ERC bucket without taking a position that's inconsistent with, you know, the PPP forgiveness application. In many circumstances for that first draw loan, the answer is yes. That you can, and you don't have offsets, and you can get through that kind of stuff. But we don't know until we actually have the data in front of us, and can look at it and understand exactly how an eligibility period for ERC interacts with a covered period for PPP.
Anyone else?
Hey there.
Hi.
So my question was regarding, you guys have my file and you're still working on it, and now we got that email. Is this going to delay everything? Is that what I'm thinking about? Or what's going to be
Won't
more
delay our work. It delays
Yeah.
the processing of the returns, most likely. I mean, some of these returns aren't being processed quickly anyway. That's what, you know, Peter was alluding to
Yeah.
with the last person's question, is that, you know, she filed in January and it's September 28th and her claims haven't processed yet, before the moratorium. So it's hard to say what, how long things are going to take. You know, we were in this CPA call with, I don't even know, probably 50 CPAs from all around the country regarding this, a week or two ago. No, I guess it was a week ago. And the CPA was essentially saying, like, this is the IRS just kind of like covering because they weren't going to get all these claims filed by the end of the year anyway. And so it's a way for them to be like, oh, hey, these new claims, we're not going to file them by the end of the year because it wasn't probable anyway. So we just really don't know.
So pretty much once you file the claim for me and send the papers, we're just on a waiting list, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And in that regard, to Rebecca's point, it's been that way all along. And the IRS has certainly acknowledged their processing delays early on in their backlogs, and they would publish about it, and the inspector general would call them out on it. And
Yeah, let them, yeah.
there would be comments about, you know, the lack of technology and all sorts of issues like that. So other than having this information release out there specifically identifying, you know, concerns about fraud, I don't know that much has changed. And, you know, we're talking about, you know, a little over 3-month delay. We've seen taxpayers wait, you know, 12, 18 months in some unfortunate circumstances for turnaround times on this stuff. So we don't know exactly how this plays out, but, you know, what we feel comfortable in saying is you should still file it if you think you're eligible, if you know, work through the analysis, because hey, you're at least in line, or you're filed. I don't think that the IRS is going to turn around and reject recently filed claims, because then they're just going to overwhelm the appeals function, as opposed to these are being processed by you know, a processing division and then potentially evaluated by an exam division. You know, if they start rejecting them outright, well, then you're in a situation where you're going to jam up the appeals function that is otherwise still working with taxpayers for other disputes that they're having. So I don't think too much changes here. And if the IRS can accomplish their chilling effect here, their effort to discourage the fraud, by taking a 3-month pause. So be it. I think that's okay.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey, how are you? Oop, James, you're cutting out a little bit.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you.
Oh, sure, of course. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I heard thank you.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you and your firm for getting us through a very convoluted process and receiving an excess of $600,000 for the hard work that we've been doing.
Yeah, no, we're happy to help. I'm glad that your claims finally got paid.
Yep, that was amazing. It allowed us to expand actually our work. We're taking homeless people off the street and helping them with severe mental illness and addictions to drug and alcohol. And what your
Oop, you cut out again.
it's life changing what your firm was able to do for us, because we're able to expand and hire more people, and we're forever grateful.
That's everything to us, honestly. The fact that we were able to help a business that was eligible get the money it was entitled to, and that money not only expanded your business and was able for you to help more people, so you're able to help Baltimore City even more, but it changed your path. That's everything for us.
Yep, that's payroll, that's additional counselors and mental health therapists, additional. And we're able to expand. I have a question that I never had before, which this conversation actually prompted the thought. So originally for the same company, we were applying for the loan, and one of my, at the time, financial advisors had put a number in the total, I forgot if it was gross or net. I think it was gross or something. So there was actually a question there, and apparently he made a mistake, took a wrong number from a wrong line, and then we submitted. When we noticed it was too late, we called, spoke to customer service. It was very extremely difficult to get through, and they said that they will email some other department that's gonna try to help us, and we never got anywhere. So I completely forgot about it, because we were told it's over once it's denied, that's it. Is that something that you guys could take a look at it for us? And is it retroactively possible if in fact the mistake was on our end? We showed number that was either too high or too low. I can't figure out right now. But it was apparently we put a wrong number in, and the application was denied, and then we were told that that's it. There's nothing you can do.
Let
And
me
no one.
let me give you a call after this,
Okay.
and we can talk about it. I've got 4 o'clock, but I can call you. I've got a 3 o'clock going to 4, but I can call you at 4 o'clock.
Anytime. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right, thanks, Jim. So does anyone else have any other questions? Questions about how the program works? Questions about other tax credits? Again, about adding pasta and whatever to chili. Local delicacy, Cincinnati area. I've been told not to ask about the Bengals, but that's probably personal preference.
Who day?
I actually don't even know. What's their record?
Yeah.
Took a shot.
Yeah.
I was correct. All right, well, listen, Peter and I appreciate, and our whole team, appreciates all of you for the work that we're able to do. It's a true pleasure working with people like James and all of you, and able to help your businesses, like I said, get a refundable credit that you're entitled to. So always feel free to reach out to either one of us if you've got questions or concerns or ways you think we can do something better. We are truly excited to hear things like that. Feel free to reach out, and we'll do another one of these at the beginning of 2024 to kind of tell everyone where we are. If there's something in between, we'll do one, but if not, I don't know what the IRS defines as fall. We'll have to see. But all right, well, thanks so much. We appreciate everything. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.